Look at me again and you're fired. The words sliced through the darkness of the executive floor. Raymond froze, his cleaning cart halfway through the doorway. The powerful CEO of TechNova Solutions sat alone in her corner office, surrounded by gleaming trophies and awards that caught the city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. But none of that mattered, because Cassandra's face was wet with tears. Her hands trembled as she wiped her eyes, smearing expensive mascara down her cheeks. She wasn't supposed to be seen like this, not by anyone, especially not by the night janitor who barely made enough to feed his 8-year-old daughter. The contrast was stark. A woman who had everything breaking down in the dark, a man who had nothing witnessing her loneliness. What Raymond saw that night wasn't just tears. It was the truth that money couldn't buy, and what came next would change both their lives forever. The clock showed 11:13 when Raymond pushed his cleaning cart onto the 42nd floor. The marble gleamed under his squeaky wheels. He'd worked this shift for 2 years, invisible in his gray uniform, cleaning after everyone went home. 2 years since his wife Caroline died in a car accident, leaving him with 8-year-old Hazel and medical bills he couldn't afford. He'd lost his warehouse supervisor job to grief and missed shifts. The janitorial company hired him because they needed night workers. $22 an hour. Just enough to survive. He slept while Hazel was at school, picked her up at 3, spent evenings being her father, then left her with Mrs. Chen next door for $20 a night. It was a half-life, but it kept them fed and housed. Tomorrow would have been Caroline's birthday. Hazel wanted to visit the cemetery. Raymond had been saving coins for 2 weeks to buy flowers. The CEO's corner office door stood slightly ajar. Unusual. Raymond hesitated, but momentum carried him forward. That's when he saw her. Cassandra Hayes, 34 years old, youngest CEO in company history. Forbes called her a visionary. She'd transformed TechNova from struggling software firm to billion-dollar empire in 5 years. And she sat, crying in the darkness like her heart was breaking, surrounded by awards that mocked her loneliness. His cartwheels squeaked. Cassandra's head snapped up. Their eyes met. For one heartbeat, Raymond saw raw vulnerability. Then fear flashed across her face, followed by fury. She stood so fast her chair slammed backward. "Look at me again and you're fired," her voice cracked. She was trying for commanding, but Raymond heard the tremor underneath, the shame, the panic of being caught vulnerable by someone who shouldn't see her as human. Raymond dropped his gaze immediately. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hayes. I didn't know anyone was here. I'll come back later." His hands shook. He couldn't lose this job. Hazel depended on him. Rent was due in 2 weeks. He had $47 in his account. "Just go," Cassandra said quietly. "And if I hear you mention this to anyone, you're done. Understand?" Raymond nodded, backing toward the door. He practically fled to the elevator. As the doors closed, he glanced back. The office door was shut. No light beneath it. Like the encounter had been imagined. Except the image of Cassandra Hayes, surrounded by success and completely alone, was burned into his mind. Morning came too soon. Raymond sat at their scratched kitchen table watching Hazel eat cereal. She was talking about some art project, hands gesturing wildly. She had Caroline's eyes, warm brown that could see through any pretense. "Dad, you're not listening," Hazel said, giving him that knowing look. Raymond forced a smile. "Sorry, honey. You were saying about the volcano?" She sighed with exaggerated patience. "Mrs. Rodriguez wants parents to help on Friday. Can you come?" Friday was a sleep day, but the hope in her eyes made saying no impossible. "Of course I'll come," he said, even as exhaustion pulled at his bones. The next week passed in routine. Raymond saw Cassandra twice from a distance, once in the lobby surrounded by executives, once presenting to the board through glass walls. Both times, she looked powerful and confident, nothing like the woman crying in the dark. He avoided her office for 3 nights until his supervisor made clear it was his responsibility. Thursday night found him outside that corner office again, stomach tight. The door was closed, lights off. He knocked, waited, then used his key. Empty and pristine, except for those gleaming awards. As he emptied trash beside her desk, something caught his eye. A leather journal partially hidden under reports. It had fallen open. He shouldn't look, but his eyes found the words anyway. Elegant handwriting that looked lonely. Success means nothing when you have no one to share it with. Raymond stared, feeling something shift in his chest. He closed the journal carefully and placed it prominently on her desk. The next night, he did something probably stupid. He left a sticky note on her desk, unsigned. Even CEOs deserve a real meal, the night janitor. It was a small gesture that crossed professional lines, but he couldn't stop thinking about that sentence, about the bone-deep loneliness it revealed. He knew that feeling. He lived with it every day, the empty space where Caroline should be. 2 days later, Raymond was mopping the hallway when a voice stopped him. "Excuse me." Cassandra Hayes stood a few feet away, in a navy suit that probably cost more than his car. Raymond straightened, heart hammering. This was it. He was getting fired. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly, glancing around. "For the note. And for returning my journal without reading it." Heat rose in Raymond's neck. "I didn't read it, ma'am. I saw one line by accident. I apologize." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "You don't need to apologize, and thank you for your discretion about that night. I appreciate it more than you know." Before he could respond, she was walking away, heels clicking on marble. But something had shifted. Some barrier had cracked. Over the following weeks, Cassandra started staying later. Their paths crossed more often. She'd nod in acknowledgement, recognizing his existence. Raymond noticed other things. The way she ate dinner alone at her desk most nights, takeout containers stacking up. The way her phone never rang with personal calls. The way she'd stand at her window staring at the city with an expression of profound isolation. One night in early December, Raymond was cleaning the break room when he noticed conference room lights still on. Inside were remnants of a birthday celebration. Balloons in corporate colors. Half a cake reading, "Happy Birthday, Cassandra." But no personal cards. No gifts. Just generic corporate acknowledgement. Raymond knew that feeling. His birthday had passed with only Hazel's homemade card. He was wiping counters when Cassandra walked in, startling them both. "I didn't realize anyone was still here," she said, then caught herself. "Besides me." Raymond gestured to the coffee maker. "Just finishing. I can come back." She shook her head, moving to the window. "It's fine. I just needed a moment." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Cassandra spoke, voice softer than he'd heard. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" The question caught Raymond off guard. Something in her tone made him answer honestly. "Every day. Ever since my wife died 2 years ago. I keep waiting to wake up and find this was all a nightmare." Cassandra turned, genuine surprise in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." Raymond shrugged. "No reason you would. We exist in different worlds." The words came out bitter. "Do we, though?" she asked, something plaintive in the question. Before Raymond could answer, his phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Chen. "Hazel has fever, 102. Should I give medicine?" His heart dropped. "I'm sorry, I have to go. My daughter's sick." Cassandra's expression shifted to concern. "Go. Of course. Is there anything you need?" Raymond was already heading out. "I'll be fine. Thank you." He practically ran, calling Mrs. Chen, trying to keep panic from his voice as he assured Hazel Daddy was coming home. Behind him, Cassandra stood processing what she'd learned. A widower. A daughter. 2 years of grief carried silently. She thought about his panic, the way he'd run without hesitation. When was the last time anyone had needed her like that? She pulled out her phone and called her assistant despite the late hour. Find out what insurance our janitorial staff have for emergency medical care. I want to know about emergency assistance funds for employees with dependents. Her assistant asked no questions. Morning found Raymond in County General's emergency room, holding Hazel's hand. The fever had spiked to 103. She complained about her throat. He'd called in sick, knowing it would cost him a needed shift. The triage nurse warned of a 4-hour wait. Around noon, a hospital administrator approached with a tablet, looking confused. Mr. Reeves, your daughter's visit shows is fully covered under supplementary insurance. Do you have secondary coverage? Raymond stared. No, just basic through my employer. There must be a mistake. She frowned at her screen. It's attached to your employee number, activated this morning. Emergency dependent care, 0 copay. Good news for you. Raymond sat back in shock. Someone had done this. Someone at TechNova made it happen between last night and this morning. His mind went to that conversation, to Cassandra's concern. But CEOs didn't personally intervene in janitors' healthcare. Did they? 3 days later, Hazel was recovering. Strep throat, treated with antibiotics they could afford thanks to mysterious insurance. Raymond returned to work with questions and gratitude. He found an envelope on his locker. Inside was a card reading, "Get well soon," and a child's drawing of a rainbow. No signature. But Raymond recognized the elegant handwriting from that journal. He carried the card that entire shift. When he reached the executive floor, he wrote carefully, "Thank you. You didn't have to do that. But you did. My daughter drew this for you. She wanted to thank the nice person who helped Daddy." He attached Hazel's crayon rainbow with 2 stick figures holding hands and left both on Cassandra's desk. Next morning, Cassandra found the note and drawing. She stood holding them, something unfamiliar happening in her chest. When was the last time someone gave her something with no agenda? She carefully placed the rainbow in her desk drawer with the few personal items she allowed. That night, for the first time in months, she found herself smiling as she left. December deepened into bone-settling cold. Raymond bought a second-hand coat for Hazel from Salvation Army, trying not to think how the sleeves would be too short by next year. They made it work. They always did. But constant calculation of survival was exhausting. Beans and rice for dinner. Heat turned to 58 at night. Hazel's shoes developing holes he filled with cardboard. Every day was mathematical survival. TechNova's annual holiday party approached. Raymond would work it, of course. Hazel would come with him. Mrs. Chen was visiting her daughter in California. He'd set Hazel up in the janitor's closet with homework and snacks. She'd wait patiently, understanding too early like children of struggling parents do. The party was extravagant. Winter wonderland, with real snow falling from the ceiling. Ice sculptures taller than him. Champagne costing more than his monthly rent. Raymond worked the perimeter emptying trash, wiping spills, maintaining effortless perfection. Through the crowd, he glimpsed Cassandra in a stunning black dress, moving with practiced grace. But Raymond noticed what others missed, the smile never reaching her eyes, the way she stood apart even surrounded by people, the way she checked her phone repeatedly, hoping for a call that never came. The string quartet played something beautiful when Raymond heard rapid footsteps, Hazel running toward him, face panicked. She wasn't supposed to leave the closet. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I had to use the bathroom and I got lost." She collided with someone, sending a champagne glass flying. It shattered on marble, expensive champagne splashing across an expensive black dress. Time stopped. Hazel stood frozen, staring up at Cassandra Hayes. "I'm so sorry." Hazel's voice was terrified. "I didn't mean to. I was looking for my daddy." Raymond rushed forward. "Ms. Hayes, I am so sorry. Hazel, go back to the closet. I'll handle this." But Cassandra held up one hand. She was looking at Hazel with an unreadable expression. Then she did something shocking. She knelt down on the floor, not caring about her ruined dress or broken glass, bringing herself to Hazel's eye level. "Hey, it's okay," she said gently. "Accidents happen. Are you hurt?" "Did any glass get on you?" Hazel shook her head, eyes wide. "I'm okay, but your pretty dress." "It's just a dress," Cassandra said softly. She studied Hazel more closely, really seeing her. The second-hand coat too thin for December, the shoes with cardboard showing through, the way she stood protectively close to her father. "Are you okay, sweetie? You look scared." Hazel bit her lip, then answered with devastating child honesty. "Are you okay, miss? You look sad. My daddy says when people look sad, they need a friend." The words hit Cassandra like a physical blow. Raymond saw her face transform, careful CEO composure crumbling, her eyes filled with tears. Around them the party continued, unaware of the moment unfolding. "You're right," Cassandra whispered, voice breaking. "I am sad. I'm sad because I don't have anyone like you to go home to. I don't have anyone at all." The admission hung raw in the air. Raymond found himself kneeling beside them, hand on Hazel's shoulder. For this moment, the boundaries between them disappeared. They were just three people seeing each other clearly. "No one should be alone on Christmas Eve," Raymond said quietly, words coming before caution could stop them. "Would you like to have dinner with us? It's nothing fancy, just—" Cassandra interrupted, voice fierce with hope. "I'd love to, if you're sure." Hazel's face lit up. "Really? You can come to our house? Daddy makes the best mac and cheese in the whole world." Raymond felt heat flood his face. Mac and cheese from a box was hardly impressive for a billionaire CEO. But Cassandra looked at him with such gratitude that taking it back became impossible. "It really isn't fancy," he warned. "We don't have much." Cassandra stood, offering her hand to help them rise. "You have each other. That's everything." She glanced at the elaborate party. This is nothing. Let me get my coat." 20 minutes later, they stood outside Raymond's apartment building. He became acutely aware how shabby it looked. Broken entryway light, graffiti on mailboxes, smell of cabbage and cigarette smoke. "I'm sorry," Raymond said, key trembling. "I know this isn't what you're used to." Cassandra shook her head firmly. "Stop apologizing. Just let me in." The apartment was tiny, living room and kitchen combined. One bedroom where Hazel slept while Raymond took the couch, a bathroom with tiles no scrubbing could make new. But it was clean. Raymond made sure. And there were touches making it home. Hazel's drawings covering the refrigerator, photos of Caroline on the bookshelf, a small plastic Christmas tree with exactly 5 ornaments, each precious. Hazel gave Cassandra a 90-second tour. "This is the living room and kitchen. That's my room. That's the bathroom. Do you like my Christmas tree? Daddy and I made the star." Cassandra knelt to examine the construction paper star with glitter and glue dried in clumps. "It's the most beautiful star I've ever seen," she said, meaning it. When had she last seen something made with love instead of bought with money? Dinner was mac and cheese from a box, frozen vegetables, store-brand cookies. They sat at the small table, Hazel chattering about school, Cassandra asking questions, and genuinely listening. Raymond watched them interact, feeling something shift. The CEO mask had disappeared. Cassandra laughed at Hazel's jokes, helped with spelling words, looked more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. After dinner, Hazel fell asleep on the couch. Raymond covered her with a blanket, smoothing hair from her face. He found Cassandra watching with profound longing. "She's lucky to have you," Cassandra said quietly. "She has no idea how lucky." Raymond settled in the armchair. "I'm the lucky one. She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Comfortable silence settled between them. Finally, Cassandra spoke. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" Raymond nodded. "When I was 10, my parents got divorced. Ugly and brutal. They both wanted to win. I was just the prize. Neither actually wanted me. They just didn't want the other to have me. By 14, I was raising myself. Dad sent money. Mom sent cards her assistant picked. I learned love was unreliable, but success was controllable. So I worked. I built companies. Made more money than they ever had. Proved I didn't need them. Didn't need anyone." Her voice cracked. "Now I'm 34 with everything I wanted, except a single person who cares whether I come home." Raymond's heart broke for the girl she'd been. "My wife used to say people remember how you made them feel, not what you owned. I didn't understand when she was alive. I worried about money, bills, providing. But after she died, I realized the stuff didn't matter. It was the moments, the laughter, being seen and loved for exactly who you were." Cassandra whispered, "Money can't buy what you have. This is everything." Raymond looked at his empty bank account, his aching back, his constant worry. Then at Hazel sleeping, at Caroline's photos, at the life built from wreckage. "Yeah," he said softly. "I guess it is." They talked for hours. Real conversation when two people stop performing and start being honest. Cassandra told him about the pressure of being youngest CEO, constant fear of failure, how success became a prison. Raymond told her about Caroline, about grief ambushing him at random moments, about guilt of not being enough for Hazel. They talked about loneliness and survival, and unexpected ways people could save each other by being present. When Cassandra left around 2 a.m., she paused at the door. "Thank you. For seeing me that night, for not looking away. For this. For reminding me what matters." Raymond smiled, suddenly shy. "Thank you for coming. Hazel will talk about this for weeks." Cassandra returned the smile, reaching her eyes this time. "So will I." The days after Christmas brought changes, starting small but rippling outward. Cassandra arrived earlier, but not to work longer. She had breakfast in the employee cafeteria, sitting with different departments, learning names and stories. She implemented paid family leave for all employees, including contractors. She raised minimum wage for everyone in the building. The board questioned the expense. She said it was non-negotiable. But the biggest changes were personal. Cassandra left at reasonable hours. She said no to networking obligations. She created space completely occupied by work. And increasingly, that space included Raymond and Hazel. It started with texts asking how Hazel felt. Then, an invitation to a children's museum on Saturday. Then Tuesday dinners becoming regular, rotating between simple meals at Raymond's and fancier takeout at Cassandra's downtown penthouse. Raymond was cautious at first, aware of their friendship's strangeness. But Hazel had no reservations. She adopted Cassandra with wholehearted enthusiasm, having too much love and missing a woman in her life. Cassandra bloomed under that attention, like a plant finally brought into sunlight. She learned to braid hair from YouTube. She helped with homework. She showed up to Hazel's school play and clapped louder than anyone. She was there. Employees noticed their CEO's transformation. She smiled genuinely now. She remembered birthdays. She actually listened instead of waiting her turn. Business publications wrote about Cassandra Hayes' revolutionary leadership philosophy, her focus on employee well-being, her unconventional corporate culture. But they didn't know the real source. A janitor who'd seen her crying, a little girl who'd asked if she was okay, a Christmas Eve dinner that meant more than any business deal. One evening in late January, Raymond helped Cassandra clean up after a company event. Other janitors had left, but he'd stayed. Cassandra insisted on helping despite protests. They worked side by side collecting glasses and stacking chairs, talking about nothing and everything, moving in comfortable silence. "I keep thinking about that night," Cassandra said suddenly, stopping with a tablecloth in her hands. "When you saw me crying. I was so angry, so ashamed. I threatened to fire you for witnessing me letting my guard down." She looked at him directly. "But now I think maybe I needed someone to see I wasn't okay, that I hadn't been okay for years. Maybe I needed someone to see me as human instead of just successful." Raymond set down his box. "We all need that sometimes. Someone who really sees us." The words hung weighted between them. Eye contact lingered too long. Raymond felt something stir, something he hadn't felt since Caroline, something like possibility. He looked away first, scared and hopeful equally. The moment was interrupted by Hazel's voice echoing through the ballroom. "Daddy? Miss Cassandra?" She appeared in the doorway, backpack on shoulder, but she didn't run to Raymond. She ran to Cassandra, wrapping arms around her waist. "Can we get ice cream?" Cassandra looked down, then at Raymond, silently asking permission. "Can Ms. Cassandra come to my school play next week?" Hazel asked hopefully. "I'm playing a flower, and I have a whole line." Both adults laughed, tension breaking. "I wouldn't miss it," Cassandra promised, and she didn't. Front row center, clapping enthusiastically when Hazel delivered her line. When the play ended, Hazel launched herself at Cassandra with the same enthusiasm she showed Raymond. "Did you see me? Did you see my costume?" Cassandra knelt down. "You were the most beautiful flower on that stage." Raymond saw tears in her eyes, happy tears, tears of belonging. Standing in an elementary school gymnasium surrounded by proud parents, wearing a dress costing more than most made in a month, but feeling more connected than she ever had in a boardroom, Cassandra realized something. She wasn't Sada anymore. Winter gave way to spring. The board approved Cassandra's proposal for a new position, Director of Employee Wellness. The role would focus on work-life balance, mental health resources, family-friendly policies. At the board meeting, she'd made her case with data showing increased productivity when employees felt valued. But the real argument happened when the chairman asked who she had in mind. "Raymond Reeves," she'd said firmly. The chairman looked confused. "I don't recognize that name." Cassandra took a breath. "He's currently a night janitor, but he understands what employees need better than anyone. He's a single father living on poverty wages. He knows firsthand what it's like to struggle. He has empathy and insight to create programs that genuinely help people." The argument was intense. The chairman thought she'd lost her mind, but Cassandra's track record won out. Now she stood in front of Raymond in the break room, his supervisor having called him in. Instead of discipline, he found Cassandra with a job offer that made him sit down hard. "Director of Employee Wellness," Raymond repeated, staring at the paper. The salary was 3 times his current pay. Benefits included full health insurance, educational assistance, 4 weeks vacation. "This has to be a mistake," Cassandra shook her head. "It's not. You understand what employees need because you've lived it. You know struggles because you face them. I can hire someone with an MBA, but I'd rather hire someone with real experience, genuine empathy, someone who actually cares." Raymond's hands trembled. "I don't have a degree. I don't have corporate experience." "I push a mop. Why would you do this?" Cassandra sat across from him. "Because that night you saw me crying, you didn't turn away. You saw me as a person, not a position. And these months, You and Hazel have given me something I didn't know I was missing. You showed me what real wealth looks like. This isn't charity. This is me being selfish. I want you here, in this role, making this company better." "I need to think," Raymond managed, though his heart screamed yes. Cassandra nodded. "Take your time. But Raymond, you deserve this. You deserve stability and the chance to give Hazel the life you want for her. Let yourself have it." That night, Raymond sat with the offer letter spread before him. Hazel slept, breathing soft from the bedroom. He thought about Caroline, what she'd tell him. She'd probably hit him for hesitating. She'd always believed in him more than he believed in himself. He thought about Cassandra, about their unlikely friendship, about the way she looked at Hazel with tenderness, about how his heart did complicated things when she smiled. He thought about the future this job could provide. Hazel in clothes that fit, a bigger apartment, zoo trips without calculating dollars, college savings, stability, hope. His hand shook as he signed, but underneath fear was quiet certainty that sometimes the universe provided exactly what you needed when you needed it most. 3 months into his position, Raymond presented his first major initiative to leadership: comprehensive childcare assistance, mental health support, financial counseling for employees earning below certain thresholds. His hands shook speaking to groups, but the data supported his proposals. He knew he was right. He'd lived these struggles. After, Cassandra found him in his new office with actual windows. "You did great. The board approved everything." Raymond exhaled relief. "Really? Everything?" She nodded, smile proud. "Every single thing." Silence settled, charged somehow. Different. Raymond cleared his throat. "I've been meaning to thank you. For all this. For believing in me." Cassandra stepped in, closing the door. "I had every reason to. You're one of the best people I've ever met. You just didn't know it yet." The way she said his name sent warmth through his chest. "Cassandra, He stopped, not sure how to finish, how to express everything he felt. She waited patiently. "I keep thinking about that night too," he finally said. "When I saw you crying, I had no idea that moment would lead to all this." "All this?" she prompted. Raymond gestured around. "This friendship, this life, you." The word hung between them, simple and complicated. "I never expected you." She smiled, transforming her face. "I never expected you either. But I'm glad the universe put you in my path." As she turned to leave, Raymond called after her. "Cassandra." She paused, looking back. "Thank you. For seeing me, too." Understanding passed between them, echo of words spoken months ago. For seeing each other, when both were invisible in different ways. For not looking away. For showing up until showing up became foundation of something neither had been looking for, but both desperately needed. 6 months after Raymond started his position, TechNova held its annual shareholders meeting. Cassandra delivered her yearly address, but instead of only discussing earnings and projections, she talked about something else. "This year, we implemented a comprehensive wellness program reducing turnover by 40% and increasing productivity 25%. But more importantly, it's changed lives." She clicked to a slide showing anonymous testimonials. Stories of people affording childcare, mental health support saving lives, financial counseling helping families escape debt. "We often measure success by profit margins," Cassandra continued, voice strong. "But I've learned to measure differently. I measure by whether employees can afford to take their kids to dinner, by whether a single parent can sleep without worrying about losing their home, by human dignity." She paused, eyes finding Raymond in the audience. Hazel sat beside him in a new dress, hair in braids Cassandra had taught herself. I learned this from someone who had nothing but was richer than I ever was. He taught me success isn't how high you climb, it's who's there to catch you when you fall, and who you're willing to catch. The room went silent. Some board members shifted uncomfortably. That night, I was at my lowest. I threatened to fire a man for seeing me as human. Today, he's the reason I finally feel like I'm living. He's our director of employee wellness. The programs he's created have transformed this company. But more than that, he and his daughter reminded me connection matters more than corner offices. That love is the only currency that actually counts. The speech made headlines. Some praised her humanity. Others criticized her for being soft. Cassandra read articles with amusement and didn't respond. She knew the truth. Profits were up because people mattered. Happy employees worked harder. But that wasn't the point. The point was, she'd stopped measuring worth by accomplishments and started measuring by who she became. And who she was becoming felt infinitely more valuable. That evening, Raymond's apartment, now a nicer two-bedroom with working lights, filled with the smell of Hazel's favorite spaghetti. Cassandra arrived with garlic bread and wine, having long stopped feeling strange about weekly dinners. These evenings were her week's highlight, the casual intimacy, the laughter, the sense of belonging. Hazel set the table with exaggerated care, practicing being a proper hostess. Over dinner, Hazel chattered about her science fair project, about Madison saying her braids were prettiest. After the meal, Hazel yawned, fighting sleep. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Raymond said gently. Hazel didn't argue much. She hugged Raymond goodnight, then surprised both adults by hugging Cassandra just as tightly. "Good night, Miss Cassandra. I love you." The words were simple, casual, how children say "I love you" to anyone showing kindness. But they hit Cassandra like a thunderbolt. She knelt, pulling Hazel into a tighter embrace. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." Her voice was thick with emotion. As Raymond tucked Hazel in, Cassandra stood at the window, looking at the city below. Lights twinkled endlessly, each representing a life, a story, a hope. She thought about how different her life looked from a year ago, how much lighter she felt. How success seemed less important than genuine connection with this unlikely family. Raymond emerged, closing Hazel's door softly. He found Cassandra still at the window, silhouette outlined by city lights. "Hey, you okay?" She turned and in the dim light looked more beautiful than he'd ever seen her. Not CEO beautiful, human beautiful. "She said she loves me. I don't think anyone has said that in 10 years. Raymond crossed the space without thinking. "Hazel doesn't say things she doesn't mean." Cassandra laughed, watery. "I know. That's what makes it so." She trailed off. Raymond understood. He felt it too. This overwhelming sense of something precious and fragile and real. "Cassandra," he said, and she looked up. They were standing very close now. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice barely a whisper. "These past months, getting to know you and Hazel, being part of your lives, it's changed me. You've changed me. I'm not just talking about loneliness ending. I'm talking about this. Us. Whatever this is becoming." Raymond's heart hammered. "I feel it too. I've been trying not to. You're my boss. You're Cassandra Hayes. I'm just..." She interrupted gently. "Stop. You're Raymond. The man who saw me at my worst and didn't turn away. The father who'd do anything for his daughter. The person who taught me what really matters. I'm not your boss right now. I'm just me. And I'm ready. I've been ready for a while." Echo of words to Hazel, but with deeper meaning. Raymond covered her hand on his face, leaning into her touch. "Cassandra, I haven't done this since Caroline. I don't know if I remember how. And Hazel's been through so much. I have to think about what's best for her. Cassandra nodded. I know. I'd never want to hurt her. Or you. But Raymond, I'm already part of her life. Part of yours. We have dinners 3 times a week. She calls me about school. You text me on hard days. We're already something. I'm just asking if we can acknowledge it. See where it goes. The question hung weighted with possibility and risk and hope. Raymond thought about Caroline, about guilt for considering moving forward, but also what she'd say. She'd tell him he deserved happiness, that Hazel deserved a full life, that loving someone new didn't erase loving someone gone. Love expanded. Made room. I'm scared, Raymond admitted, terrified of messing this up, of losing what we have, of how much I already care about you. Cassandra smiled through tears. I'm scared too. I've never done this. Real relationship, real vulnerability, real risk. But I think you're worth being scared for. We're worth it. Raymond made his decision. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But Cassandra moved closer, rising to meet him. The kiss was gentle, tentative, full of questions neither had answers for. It tasted like hope and fear, and beginning of something that couldn't be defined. When they pulled apart, both trembled. Okay, Raymond whispered against her forehead. Let's see where this goes. Slowly. For Hazel and us. But yes. Cassandra nodded, arms wrapping around him. They stood like that. 2 people who'd found each other in unlikely circumstances, learning to build something new from broken pieces. The weeks following were careful dance of new relationship woven into old friendship. They moved slowly, mindful of Hazel. Dinners continued, but hands reached across tables. Movie nights happened with shoulders touching. Small affections that grew as Hazel adjusted and approved, her 8-year-old wisdom understanding more than they credited. One Saturday, Raymond woke to find Hazel and Cassandra in the kitchen, attempting pancakes. Flour covered everything. The batter looked questionable. But they were laughing, heads together over a recipe. Cassandra's hair was messy. She wore old jeans instead of designer clothes, and she looked happier than he'd ever seen. She looked home. The pancakes were terrible, burnt outside and raw inside. They ate them anyway, drowning them in syrup and laughter. Later, when Hazel was at a friend's, Raymond and Cassandra walked through the park holding hands. I have something to tell you, Cassandra said seriously. The board offered me a promotion, CEO of the entire corporate group, based in New York. Significant raise, huge opportunity. Raymond's stomach dropped. Of course, this was too good to last. That's amazing. When do you leave? Cassandra stopped, turning to face him. I turned it down. I'm not going anywhere. Raymond stared. What? Why would you turn that down? She smiled, reaching up to touch his face. Because success isn't measured by how high you climb. It's who's there to catch you when you fall. And who you're willing to catch. I have everything I need right here. A job I love. Work that matters. And you. You and Hazel. I'm not going anywhere. She interrupted his protest with a kiss. When she pulled back, her eyes were fierce. You're not making me give up anything. I'm choosing. For the first time, I'm choosing connection over achievement. Love over resume building. I'm choosing us. The word hung precious between them. Us. A unit. A future. A conscious choice. Raymond pulled her close. I love you. I didn't think I'd say that again. But I love you, Cassandra Hayes. She pulled back to look at him, tears streaming. I love you too. Both of you. My whole heart. 9 months later, TechNova held its charity gala. Raymond watched Cassandra work the room. She'd grown into leadership in a new way, leading with compassion instead of ruthlessness. But what made him smile was watching her with Hazel, who'd insisted on coming, wearing a dress she'd picked and sparkly shoes she'd saved for. Cassandra knelt to fix a ribbon in Hazel's hair, tenderness making Raymond's chest ache. The evening included speeches. At the podium, Cassandra spoke about redefining success. "I used to measure success by quarterly reports," she said, eyes finding Raymond. "Now I measure it by whether employees can afford to take their kids to dinner, by whether we're creating dignity, not just paychecks, building community, not just corporation." She paused, emotion thick. "I learned this from someone who showed me being truly seen isn't weakness. It's the beginning of everything. That night someone saw me at my most vulnerable. I threatened to fire him. Today, he's the reason I finally understand what living means." The room erupted in applause. After speeches, as the band played, Cassandra found them. "Dance with me," she asked Raymond. He took her hand, letting her lead him to the floor. They swayed together, not quite in time, but in perfect rhythm. Over her shoulder, Raymond saw Hazel drawing pictures, occasionally waving, perfectly content. "Thank you," Cassandra whispered, "for not looking away, for seeing me, for letting me into your lives." Raymond pulled back to look at her. "Thank you for staying, for choosing this, for loving us." The song ended. Another began. Hazel appeared, tugging Cassandra's dress. "Can I dance too?" Without hesitation, Cassandra scooped her up. Suddenly, all three were on the floor, laughing and spinning. A family not bound by blood, but by choice, by showing up, by seeing each other and loving what they saw. Around them, the party continued, but in their small circle, the world narrowed to this moment. This joy, this love bloomed from unlikely beginning. Raymond caught Cassandra's eye over Hazel's head. In that look was everything. Gratitude for the journey, wonder at the destination, hope for what came next. She smiled, and he smiled back. Somewhere in that exchange was recognition that the best things come from vulnerable moments, from being seen when breaking, from someone choosing not to look away. As the evening wound down, Hazel between them holding both hands, Raymond thought about how far they'd come from that night, when loneliness collided with compassion. From tears and threats to this, to family, to love, to a future none could have predicted, but all had chosen. The city lights sparkled outside, and ahead stretched infinite possibility. Together, they walked toward it, ready for whatever came next, knowing they wouldn't face it alone.